We have department head members that are here, and I'll introduce, starting on my far left, Stacy Dion, Budget Committee Chair and Wage Study Committee Chair, Paula Mahoney, Finance and HR Director, Tammy Bakey, Town Clerk, Tax Collector, Chief Graham Pellerin, Fire Chief, Board Member Laurie Schwett, Board Member and Vice Chair Glenn Koppelman. I'm your Chair, I'm Ellie Alessio. To my right is Peter Bakey, Board Member, Susan Ayer, Administrative Assistant to the Board, Chief Joel Johnson, Police Chief, Director Phil Coombs, Public Works Director, Building Inspector, Code Enforcement, and Chief Cook and Bottle Washer in the Land Use Department, Pedro Avila, and welcome aboard to Mr. Kevin Schultz, who is a new Deputy Health Inspector. Welcome all. We'll start with the Budget Committee. We'll get some of the tough ones right off the bat.
Good morning, everyone. We had our first budget session, and there's a few issues that came up that we wanted the select board to weigh in on before the departments present. The first one is Parks and Recreation. In our budget, it says that there's a director and there's an associate director. The current budget only has the hours for the director, and with the director changing, we just wanted to get clarification if there would be continuing a director and an associate director for the Budget Committee next year. For Parks and Rec.
Glenn?
Well, since I'm the liaison person to that department, I'll answer that question. That was a concept that the previous director had floated with the board for different structuring purposes. But since his last day was Friday, and now we have an announcement out for a new director, I think we'd have to wait and see what the new person would want to do. But as of now, since this was an initiative under the previous director and it had not been implemented yet, I would say that as of now, we're just dealing with the director.
Okay, we just want to make sure before we go in and start doing the budget and we don't include those positions.
That's my opinion, and certainly other board members can weigh in if you feel differently about that.
Well, did we not hire a deputy? We did not hire that because Paul had recommended an individual who wanted to come on board that maybe.
Did we actually do that?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just helping out right now in the, oops.
Thank you, Paula.
We did, but for temporary while a new director is being hired.
Okay.
And
Through
then,
the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, until we can figure things out.
Okay.
And what were the hours for the director that we gave?
I believe 24. But
It's 24 hours.
Okay, we upped it to 24.
Yeah,
Well, that's what-
he was always 24,
Oh,
and then
okay.
he asked to,
Give 4. Right?
yeah,
Yep, I remember.
to drop it
Yep.
he dropped his hours
for
in order to
personal reasons,
accommodate
and then this
an
year he brought it
assistant.
back up.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yep, so we're going to move forward with director,
Correct.
24 hours, and not include the associate director.
Correct.
In the 2025 budget.
Correct.
Yes.
At least for this next year.
All right.
Well, I mean, you know, obviously we'll see what happens when a new person comes in and
Yep.
we see how things lay out, and
Yeah.
we can always make adjustments, but for now,
Yeah, we were just, there was a note and we wanted to clarify.
Right,
so-
right. No, we
sure,
understand.
of course.
Okay. The next one from Budget Committee is the Heritage Committee put in proposed changes to the Nichols Memorial, and right now it's just a note. It is currently not in the budget. So it sits at $29,000. That is currently not in the budget for repairs to the Nichols Memorial Library. We would like some guidance on where that should fit in the budget, because should it go into the government building section? Should it go, where should it go? And who should be discussing that? Because right now it's not in the budget, it's just a request for them to include it in the budget.
Right, and I'll start this off,
Yeah.
and, you know, others can weigh in, obviously. I'm not quite sure where to start on this, except that it is a town building. We are responsible for taking care of it. Old buildings have more problems than newer buildings, so it ends up being that, you know, stuff happens. Plus, there was a lot of deferred maintenance over the years, and so we're still catching up on some of that. But the Heritage Commission put that forth to the Budget Committee because under the memorandum of agreement or understanding, whatever that is, the Heritage Commission is tasked with advocating for the maintenance and taking care of that building. The Heritage Commission does not implement, does not expend those monies, but they advocate for it, and they often are the ones who do the research, possibly find sources for materials and vendors, and work with DPW to get those done. So prior to the budget season, there had been conversations between Heritage Commission, DPW, and possibly others about these anticipated needs for this coming year or the next couple of years. And the question was, well, you know, where do we put it? Do we put it in the regular buildings section of the budget? Does it need to be called out as a separate item? And so there were some questions, and that we couldn't resolve, couldn't come to an answer, and so the Heritage Commission submitted those numbers, and so I'm not sure at this point that there's an answer, although, as I said, it's my opinion that because it's a town building and the town's responsible for it, it ought to be in the place in the budget where other town buildings are taken care of.
Okay, let's take that a step further, because I think we need to review exactly what has been spent on that building over the last few years. I know we've expended quite a few bit of money, even though we are, and I agree, we are responsible, and I believe that's part of the trust that was established to donate the building to the town. However, we've spent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last 5 years. So it'd be good to know what we've spent so far, what needs to be done, take a look at the capital improvement plan, and either budget accordingly or ask the voters as a separate warrant article. Does that make sense, Mr. Coombs? I mean, I'd like to see what we've spent on the building. When we proposed moving the library from the old Nichols to building a new one of the reasons of doing that was that there was not enough space and that it was an old building, but we still are responsible for it.
So when I was given a copy of the memorandum, in the past, we have been utilizing the building reserve fund for all of the projects over on that and the other historical buildings. The memorandum clearly states that the Heritage Commission is responsible for developing the budget and advocating for the maintenance on those buildings. We have a capital improvements line that is used to do the day-to-day operations of the other buildings. So there is not enough money in there to take on these other projects like rebuilding a door or redoing flooring for the Nichols. And frankly, to have my budget go up $29,000 for something that isn't really an anticipated cost is more of it's not hindering the day-to-day operations of that building. So I had requested that Heritage put this in accordance with the memorandum. How the board wants to deal with that is up to you guys.
Okay. Ernie, would you like to weigh in and give you an opportunity to advocate for the public? Come forward, please.
I think Len started off by saying that the Nichols building is a town building. So are all the other museum buildings, so is the town hall, the fire department, police station, and all of those. The RSA's say the selectmen are responsible for managing the prudential affairs of the town, and among those responsibilities are the town buildings. I don't feel as though the budget for the Nichols Building alone should be in a Heritage Commission budget, in the sense that it is a town building, and the budget, or the maintenance budget for all the rest of the historic buildings, plus the rest of the town buildings, are all in the building maintenance fund. That fund was established back in, I don't know, 2012, maybe, or 2001 actually, to maintain, basically it says to, for the future repair, maintenance, and improvement of all town buildings, and it named the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend. So I think it was clear back then that really all of the buildings in town were to be funded through the building maintenance fund. Phil was talking about, budgets for that. Right now, I think there's close to $400,000 in the building maintenance fund, so I'm not sure how that affects Phil's capital improvement fund. At the same time, the town has a Kingston infrastructure fund that was established in 2020, the interest and dividends of which can be used to fund building maintenance. That's got about, I don't know, $400,000 worth of interest and dividends in that. And so my position is that if the Nichols Building is a town building, it ought to be treated the same way all other town buildings are treated, as far as what budget the funds come out of. The memorandum of agreement doesn't say that the funding has to be out of the Heritage Commission budget. It says the Heritage Commission will prepare an annual budget for the purpose of maintaining the building. And so I think it's really up in the air as to where that budget needs to be, whether it can be in the building maintenance fund or elsewhere. And so my suggestion would be that it be in the building maintenance fund along with all the other buildings that the town's responsible for maintaining.
I don't think that's unreasonable at all, except that just because we have a savings account with some money in it doesn't mean we get to spend it all. And maybe there are other priorities that need to come first before we do that, which is why it makes sense to make sure that those repairs are part of the capital improvement plan, that we know we need to take care of that in a timely manner. That's my personal opinion.
And I don't disagree with that. I will say, though, that if you look back on the building maintenance fund, and I hate to prolong this, but if you look back on the building maintenance fund, on an annual basis, there's been a warrant article to raise and appropriate money for that fund. And typically, it's a round number that basically has some different purposes. One year it was to maintain the fund at $300,000 so that we have money available. Another year it was similar to that, maintain it at $300,000. And so even the money going into the building maintenance fund from a warrant article is general and not based on very specific analysis of what the needs are. So.
Okay. Comments from my colleagues?
Is there value in separating, whether you put it under one budget line or the other, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because it's still in the budget, so.
It's still town money.
It's still town money, so is there value in calling out a separate line item? Because we hear repeatedly how much the Nichols Building has cost the town over the last X amount of years. And I don't know that that has any relevance or not, unless that's how we want to track how we're maintaining every building in town. So if we want a separate line item for the Nichols Building, do we then do a separate line item of maintaining the town hall, which is also a historic building? Or do we do, so it's just food for thought. If we want to call out the Nichols Building, then are we going to call out every building and separate it out for true cost accounting? That's the only purpose of that, for true cost accounting on what the buildings are, are costing, because we hear a lot how much the Nichols Building has cost the town. So,
and it's true, it has cost quite a bit, and that's one thing. That is one thing.
Right.
However, you need to still plan and budget accordingly. That's all I'm really suggesting.
Right.
It may not be this year for the Nichols.
Right.
Because there are other priorities.
Right, but, you know, the question is, who holds that budget? And then is it just a general budget line for the maintenance of all the town buildings, or are we calling it out separately? Under somebody's budget? And if so, then we should call out the other buildings.
Anyone else want to weigh in on this one here? Well, I guess we don't have an answer for you. I think we need to consider it some more. I'd like to know how much we've spent on it. I'd like to look at the capital improvement and put it in. I'm not saying no to the expenditure. I'm just not sure that this is the year we're going to do that.
So I just want to make sure everyone's aware that currently it is not in the budget. So
Okay.
it's not in the budget at all. It is a request. And the Heritage Commission will be presenting to the Budget Committee on October 30th. So if they go to present to the Budget Committee may not include that in the budget for this coming year based on not having any guidance. So I'm just giving you a due date of October 30th.
Okay, could you follow up with an email to me to remind me to bring it on the agenda again? Because we do need to talk about it, make a decision, or a recommendation to the Budget Committee, if nothing else.
Correct, yeah.
On what we should do. This way we have some time to think about it. And if Mr. Coombs could give us a quick synopsis of what we've expended the last few years.
I'm forwarding it to you
Not that
right now.
Excuse me?
I'm forwarding it to you right now.
Thank you.
Broken down, it's $292 an hour for every hour that the museum has been open since 2016.
I hear you.
So one more thing on that $29K, if that can be broken out on what the money's for, because if we don't do something this year, what is it gonna cost us in 3 years to fix it if we don't do it now?
And that's a good.
So
It already is broken down on the budget that you guys all have.
on the note. So I would just want to clarify.
In the note section of the budget that you all have, it's broken down.
Okay,
By
thanks.
door and whatever, flagpole.
But what needs to get done, or are they nice to haves? Because if we push it off, it's gonna cost us more.
Yeah, and that would be you, Ernie. I don't know, I'm just
But
I'm just
budgeting
trying to
anything,
figure out
so
where to put
it's-
it in the budget.
Yeah, and it may not be for this year, maybe we need to plan it for next year, that's all. Okay, thank you. And any other questions?
From budget.
Budget.
Yeah, so there is the one question that
Oh,
came up
thanks, Ernie.
during budget is bottled water delivery to different departments.
Yeah.
The Budget Committee, a few people on the Budget Committee wanted clarification on if there's a water system, bottled water, whether or not we should continue to deliver bottled water to town buildings.
Anyone want to jump in on that one? Chief Bland.
So I know it came up at the last meeting, I believe. So Phil, myself, Tammy, and Paula met because you had kind of tasked us with
Yep.
the department heads doing it. So I think we came up with a good plan that I think currently we're renting 2 or 3 water coolers, which is costing us money per month. So I bought a water cooler out of my budget because mine was one of the rentals, so we'll give that back to the company to lessen the charges monthly, and then continue with water bottle delivery at the town buildings currently.
Okay, so we get bottled water delivered here at the town hall, fire station, and police?
Yes.
Okay. The town hall has to have bottled water. There's not even any question about it because of the quality. It's not really potable. So we do have to provide the bottled water here. And both the fire station was the source of the PFAS contamination that we are replacing wells in other homes. My personal opinion, and that's just what it is, I think we should continue to do that for the police and fire to give them peace of mind. If peace of mind is $1,000 a year of bottled water, then I think that's well worth it. That's my opinion. So my colleagues can weigh in and accordingly. So it's split up in all 3 budgets. One budget, okay.
So it's under the executive, correct?
No, it's under government buildings.
It's under government buildings. Okay.
So to go off of what Ellie said, I have a different opinion. We are installing POET systems in houses that are affected by PFAS, and we're telling them that it's fine. But we have a system in the firehouse, and we're still gonna deliver bottled water. So we're sending a mixed message to the town. So I personally, I have a problem with that, but also if there's a problem with the POET system at the firehouse, then we need to take a look at that and fix it.
Yeah, that's not the problem, though.
So if you talk about peace of mind, what about the other homes that are getting a system installed? They want peace of mind too, just because we're double standard here, that's all I'm saying.
I guess I'm gonna have a double standard in favor of my police and fire department. That's my, again, it's my opinion,
I
I'm
get
one
it.
vote
I
out of
get it,
five.
but the residents aren't any less than our first
I'm not
responders.
saying they are any less, I'm saying the source was at the fire station, and that has another edge to it that's different. Their homes are contaminated by that source. But I'm not gonna argue with you, Lori.
And I just think it's personal preference. In my home, I drink the water from the faucet, my husband drinks it from a bottle, that's what he likes.
Right.
And he's turning back the money that cost him to rent the thing, so it basically is a net nothing.
But we're still paying for a system there, and we're still paying for maintenance of that system, so it's not a zero-sum game. It's costing the taxpayers money, because there's a system installed that we maintain. And if we're not gonna maintain it, then we need to just not pay for it. So we're still costing the taxpayers money, for the system and then for bottled water.
So originally, I guess I'm the cause of this topic. So I was the one that came before the board 8 years ago to get a POET system in the old station, because when my guys get back from a fire, they shower there, they shave, they brush their teeth, they live there for 24 hours at a time. So not knowing the long-term effects of PFAS and cancer, and knowing the inherently dangerous job that my guys do and myself, it just gave us a peace of mind to be able to shower and do all your daily tasks, laundry, they do all that stuff at the station. The drinkable water, whether it's peace of mind caused by the PFOAs, peace of mind just because it says Poland Springs in the bottle and it tastes better, I guess it would be the same thing that if the resident at 178 Main Street, we pay to put a POET system in, but they, because of their peace of mind, you guys then aren't responsible for giving them bottled water anymore. But if they still get it delivered to their house on their own dime, then that's their
Choice.
choice.
But that's their own dime.
Sure.
Yeah, but you say you're paying for it out of your budget. Where are you getting the budget? The taxpayers.
Correct.
So it's not your own dime, it's the taxpayers' dime.
I don't want to belabor this.
But it's a discussion that we need to have, because clearly the budget committee is having questions about it too.
And I guess for a solution, and I've talked to the board before, whatever you decide, if you do decide to take the bottled water away, then I guess we would just be left to soliciting for donations. If that's your, absolutely, we follow the verdict that's handed down to us, so.
I have a system in my house. So I'm not just a resident I have a system at my house and I drink the water. Part of our responsibility is to make sure that what did Ernie say, the fiduciary? Part of that is to make sure that we're spending our money wisely. And we can't force the town residents to do one thing and say it's different for some of the buildings, is my point in all of that.
Well, I'll weigh in and throw something else in. My house is a direct line of all the PFAS down into Ridgewood. My house does not test positive for PFAS. Why do you think that? I think it's because when we bought it 52 years ago, we put in our own filtration system. And that's what we've used for all these years. But I still drink bottled water because that's my preference. So it's
I don't want to jam up the board. Because
I
we
agree.
haven't even started the
We're
department meeting
spending
yet,
a little time here.
So whatever the board decides is
So I don't know if we're going to come to a decision at the moment, but I think we each ought to weigh in on where we stand on this, if we wish to, and with all due respect to my colleagues and the staff of the town, if the water in any particular town facility is deemed potable, I don't think that we should be supplying additional water, bottled water. I understand the peace of mind issue, but the fiduciary responsibility of this board, and granted, it's not a huge amount of money, but I mean, there are lots of little things that end up adding up to big numbers. So granted, this is a small item, but that's where I come down.
So just to keep it equal across the board, I would request that we get the water testing samples back from every town building, and that standard, if that's what the board decides, that standard be held accountable for everyone. And that the board should also look at putting a POET system in the buildings that need it, like this one, any other building.
Absolutely, agreed.
So it's the same across the board. So we
In
can
fact,
save $3,000 by getting rid of all water bottles.
I mean, frankly, I'm amazed that we don't have a system in town hall, but.
Any other comments?
I honestly could go both ways on this. I understand the need for the fire department, the town hall, the police department, I get it, but I'm the guy that has a clean drinking well that drinks bottled water. So I understand the whole thing about saving the taxpayers' money, but there's probably other things we could look at saving the money on in not a water situation. But I definitely think this may be a topic for a different time. I think there's a lot to this, and we probably should revisit this conversation.
Okay, on my to-do list. Anything else, Mrs. Dion?
Not from the budget committee.
Okay, we're going to give you a break for a minute here, okay? I know we have wage committee topics, but there's a new conservation member that wanted to say good morning to us. Is that the gentleman right there?
No.
Yeah.
In the green, back
Yeah,
in
that's what
the
I
audience.
mean.
Yeah.
Jim, would you like to come and say hello to the boy? You're the new member of the Conservation Commission. Oh, well, it's,
I think the Jim that we're talking about is not here.
okay,
I believe
so,
you know that, Jim.
all right.
He's
So
married to my cousin.
we're gonna,
That's not him.
all right, Susan.
That's not him.
Then let's go back to Stacy and take care of the wage committee and let her have some rest here. And then we'll go to the building groups.
So we're wrapping up the wage matrix, and we would like some guidance from the select board on a few items that have popped up in our discussions. First one is COLA. So as part of the wage matrix, we're recommending that the wage matrix get updated on an annual basis based on the COLA. And we are looked at the national versus the Northeast COLA, and have found that local towns around the area are using the Northeast CPI to set their COLA, which over the last few years has been either significantly or a little higher than the national CPI index. So, so that's just one of the items. We would like some guidance on whether we should use the national versus the Northeast, but we would recommend the Northeast.
And if I'm correct, the board approved the 2.6%
Correct.
increase for 2025, which reflects the national rate. However, the Northeast rate is 3.2%. So the board would have to vote to increase it another 0.6% to meet the regional average. And I believe the rationale from the budget committee for going with regional, it's more appropriate for cost of living here in New England.
Yeah, I mean, that's from the wage matrix. It would keep us closer to what the area towns are paying for people.
Okay. Discussion from my colleagues? Do you want to take action on that tonight? Don't all jump in at once. You need direction?
I would like direction so we can finish the policy and do the final presentation, but if we don't get direction, then we probably won't be able to do any of that until potentially November or December based on.
Well, we could schedule for next week if you want to think about it. We're missing one of our colleagues who would probably want to weigh in on that as well, and he's the budget representative to the BudCom, it's board representative to BudCom.
I think what she's saying is there's people going on vacation, so they're not gonna be here to do the presentation until November or December. We're in a short
window right now. So
Okay.
we have one more wage matrix meeting, and then based on different vacations of the wage matrix committee, the next 5 weeks, there won't be the full wage matrix meeting.
I would support going the Northeast average. Any other comment? Peter as well? You want to make a motion, or you would rather not?
Well, you can make a motion. I mean, without having a little bit more background and information, and I'd like to look at some history of it. If you want a decision today, my decision would be to stick with what we had approved.
Okay.
But yeah, feel free.
Or we could vote. We could take it up next Monday. And
Yeah,
because then we'll have Chuck here as well. Why don't we take it up next Monday? Susan, please add it as an agenda item for next week. Okay, anything else from the wage matrix?
Yeah, so we have a few employees that are outside of the matrix. So when we calculate the ranges and we put our current employee salary, and we have a few employees across different departments that are outside of the matrix. Based on this, so we've gone back and forth and round at the wage matrix on how to deal with this. So we've talked about the title of the position versus the job duties and whether or not that's appropriate and whether they've been giving additional roles and responsibilities that may foresee different job title to ensure that they're got a different calculation of data. So if we have full-time worker 1 versus a full-time worker 2, so we get the data on that information, and we use the job title plus the job descriptions that have been given us, plus there are some people who have additional duties. It's difficult to create a matrix that includes the additional duties for that employee, so what happens is they end up outside of the wage matrix. Originally we had thought that everyone with the COLA, the wage matrix would increase, but if that employee was given COLA, they would never go into the wage matrix. They would always be outside of the wage matrix. So that is one of the ways we would do it, but then they would never, and then there's also longevity bonuses or stipends of some part for their additional duties. So we're trying to put the procedure together, so it's a little difficult to kind of think about that, but they are, unless we go back and look at changing potential job titles to more reflect people's responsibilities. But that should go to the board and not wage matrix.
So I think my initial thought on that is we have a lot of folks who, we had actually discussed this when we were doing job descriptions, because if you're going to post the job for replacement tomorrow, you can't really post for all of the other things that the person has learned to do and we expect them to do, because then you're looking for a bunch of unicorns. So yeah, that's a tough way to think about how we want to handle that. So you're saying longevity bonuses and COLA, they would never fit inside of the wage matrix?
Yeah, so if we had an employee that was outside of the wage matrix, even with COLA, because if they got COLA, then the matrix would go up the COLA, but they would always be staying at whatever percentage above the matrix that they would be at. And so they would never fit in the matrix.
And a new employee filling that position would fall into the wage matrix?
Correct. But there are several employees that have skills and responsibilities that are outside of their job description, and we don't want to, we don't want to penalize them. We want to make sure that they're getting their, so we're kind of looking at this and saying, how do we align it so that it makes sense as we're proceduralizing how to use the wage matrix?
So the scenario would be those individuals that are outside the wage matrix stay where they are and get the COLAs every year, and then get grandfathered out of the system eventually when they leave and or retire. And then anyone new coming in falls into the system, into the wage matrix system with the appropriate job description. Did I?
So, and I'm not, right, that is
those are
a
the
scenario, there is that scenario. The only concern I have with that is that those employees those employees would always ever be getting whatever COLA would be proposed and never be getting any other increases if instead, so like the wage matrix has 7 steps. Other employees would get steps, and those steps would increase per COLA to keep us reflective of the region that we're in. But the employees and so we have 2 categories. We have employees that are outside the matrix, and we have employees that are actually at the top of their steps. They kind of fit in at the top of their steps. So those employees would only be getting COLA, while other employees would be getting step increases based on the COLA. And that's where it kind of falls apart because of roles, because some of them are potentially our top performers.
How many employees are we talking about?
7.
And how many employees does the town have?
30.
No,
Well,
that's full-time. You
that's-
get full-time and part-time, so.
Yeah, 37 full-time, and at any time of the year, it could be 84 employees altogether.
Well, I'm going to throw this one back to the wage committee, and I'm going to ask you guys to give the board a recommendation. I mean, you're familiar with the wage structure throughout the town. You're very knowledgeable about what other towns are doing. I think this time, I think you need to give the board some direction as to which way you think we should go.
okay.
Thank you. I mean, is there any objection to that from my colleagues? Okay, thank you. Any other items? Okay.
I have a couple of questions. So you said in 6 weeks you won't have another, it's gonna be 6 weeks before you have another full meeting.
Correct.
So
We're having a meeting on Wednesday.
what are the steps after that? Does it go in front of the select board for approval? Does it go to the budget committee for approval?
It will go-
How is this adopted by the town?
So it will go, the presentation will go in front of a joint meeting of the select board and the budget committee. We are looking at scheduling that hopefully in the beginning of November. I think we already have a tentative date for it. So it's, hold on. November 20th, I think, is the 18th or the 20th, depending on whether we go to the select board meeting and have the budget committee come to the select board meeting, or the budget committee and have the select board come to the budget committee. So that will be presented with all the data and everything that we've put together so far, including policy that will state how to update it moving forward and how to use it.
And what happens if it's not adopted by the town? Then what do we do for salary increases? What is that plan? Do we have one?
It doesn't get adopted by the town, it's the choice of the select board.
Okay, I misspoke. If we don't choose to adopt it, then what's the plan?
I guess you guys would have to come up with one.
So the budget, so for salary increases in the budget lines, have those been accounted for yet?
They have not.
Okay.
So some of them have, police and fire have, but other departments have not. I think if this did not get adopted, it would go before the budget committee to determine whether or not to put increases, the proposed increases from departments and COLA, because it's budget season. So if you look at what happened a few years ago, budget wanted no COLA, no pay per performance, because they wanted to see where we were stacked against local town. So now we have that information, will get presented to them, and it will still go to budget for, because we are doing the budget. So that information would go to budget, so whether to put that into the budget or not, based on those presentations.
I have so many questions, but I'll stop, because I could take up another hour on this, because I don't understand how fire and police are already in there if it hasn't been presented.
The select board adopted the fire and police wage matrix last year.
With all of the steps? When was that presented? Yes. I honestly don't recall. So are they, is it in this format?
They have a format. They've been using fire and police.
I don't recall that. I may be wrong, but I don't recall adopting
don't
a
remember.
wage step matrix.
It was presented to implement fire and police last year.
Let's research that, make sure that happened, okay? So
Well-
that everyone's comfortable with that.
I'm not disputing you, but I honestly don't remember doing that.
Okay, it was at a joint meeting, so. Yeah, it
Like I
was in
said,
the, and I'm just gonna say, it was in the budget, so, it was in the budget for last year.
Right, thank you.
Okay, and I think we're all set with the wage study? And we're gonna switch to the department heads, right? And we're gonna start with Chief Joel Johnson. Microphone. Microphone.
Phil, you want to give him your, thank you.
I'll be short and sweet. Pass out our most recent stats, take a look, it's pretty interesting. The hiring process for the officer that left is not going that well. We had a couple interviews. Needless to say, they are not going to be offered that position. First person that was up for an oral board showed up half hour late. So that's a bad start. I don't need that.
It's not an auspicious
The second
start.
one bailed out. The third one sounded good, presented himself well. He's been arrested 4 times in the last 2 years. So that's where we're at.
And you found that out when you started doing the,
Background.
Yeah,
Background.
after we started looking into him a little.
But Chief, doesn't that account for experience in the duties?
Yeah, well, it would, I guess it would count. Got a customer relationship, all right? So,
To put himself in the other guy's shoes.
there's not a lot of applicants right now. Nobody seems to want to be a police officer. It's crazy. So,
And just to piggyback off that, I think, not to take your time, but
No, please
that's
take
what
it
we're
all.
seeing in all aspects of especially municipal services, police, fire, highway, there's just nobody out there to hire. So just keep that in mind, if we start moving backwards with pay, and we're gonna start losing employees, and we're not gonna be able to replace them. So roads won't
100%.
get plowed, services will be depleted. I'm not
Well, if
trying to
you
go Grim Reaper here, but, you know, that's what we're looking at in the next 5 years if we're not competitive wage-wise and whatever.
Well, if you remember, the board moved away from pay for performance because the budget committee didn't want it to be as subjective as that. They wanted more objective incremental increases, so we're gonna be caught between a rock and a hard place here. Chief Johnson, anything else to report?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil Coombs, our Public Works Director.
We had our e-waste collection event this weekend at the collection center. We had 120 total at the collection center, but 44 of those were there for the event, and 40 of them were new people who came just for that event and were unaware of the cardboard and glass, so they said they will be back. I wanted to thank the town clerk tax collector for the second time she's been there, third time they've supported our events, and it was very helpful to have them there handling the money, since we're bad with that kind of thing. One thing I did want to say is a lot of people had the 6x9 mailer that we had sent out previously on its own, separate from the tax bill, that got a lot of the word out there, so that was very beneficial, and I'm telling you that because the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee will be coming before you to increase their line item specifically for mailings, and just the feedback that that is working. With that said, we would like to be on one side of a tax insert for this upcoming tax bill, and if there is room. The MS4 permit, I signed that this morning, so that will be submitted for our year seven, right? Okay. Our year 7, we accomplished everything that we were supposed to under that, so there's no deficiencies for our permit, so we're all set with that. Just a question on that for the town website. There was discussion of updating the town website to a different format, server, provider. Is that in the works, or?
They are testing it. Yeah, Caitlin and I have access. We're trying to get Lori on for access to go through it and do some training to know how to use it.
Okay.
So it's coming.
Can I just ask a question about that, because there are some new accessibility laws coming down the pike in 2026. So there are things that are required to be done with websites, and I know a lot of libraries in other towns are joining their town's websites so they can be in compliance, and I'm just wondering if the town is looking at any of that or is aware of those accessibility issues.
I would hope that Civic Plus, who is doing our website, is aware of the compliance, but we'll verify that.
Well, they could very well be aware of it, but whether or not they might not be implementing it for us now, because if it's a requirement coming in 2026, they might not be dealing with that now for us. So doesn't mean that they shouldn't be thinking about it and perhaps building in the
infrastructure.
Right, getting it in place so that we can be compliant when that is requirements there.
So, correction, it was year 6. Anyway, we have to have a dedicated page for stormwater postings, and permits and all those things need its own thing. So there's a lot of work that's going to go into that, so we will wait until the new website is in place, if that's the intention, rather than doing the legwork on the old one. We'll be finishing line striping tonight, starting at 10 p.m. We had a new contractor come on board. That was last week. We did the majority of it, but we'll be finishing that up tonight, just for everybody's knowledge. And the pickleball court was paved on Friday, and we'll be doing the backfilling on it towards the end of this week. So.
Did you want to respond in any way to Mr. Barlow's comments last week?
There were so many inaccuracies and falsehoods stated in that letter that I do not feel the need to respond to it.
Could we at least let the public know by means of this meeting that one of his big issues apparently was gravel along the edges, and that's not how it was built. It was built with pavement to the edges?
So he had expressed his concerns, and we reconfigured how the court was going to be set up so that it could be loam right to the edges of it. So what he actually wanted is what is taking place. So
okay. I was more concerned about it from not necessarily the way he was addressing this, but from the safety aspect, because if in fact, not having the sod up to the edge was going to be a safety hazard, then, but that seems to be the way it was done, so.
Well, we've only killed 3 people where gravel and grass meet this year, so.
Okay, okay.
But I will not be satisfied until my bloodlust of the mower is on everybody, but.
Oh, okay.
No.
So speaking of new town employees, I was at the recycling center for my drop-off of lots of glass that have been accumulating over the months, and got to meet your new person, Matt, I believe?
Yep, Matt Morris is his name,
Yeah.
and he is a Kingston resident.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to hear back if he's going to be able to attend this meeting or not. They're in the middle of something right now, so you can peel him away.
Seemed like a good guy just from the initial introduction and interaction, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what Graham was saying, 2 years ago, before we modified wages, we had 2 applicants for 2 open positions that were actually qualified. This year, we were able to get over 20 applicants, not all qualified, but we were able to interview 4 very solid candidates who were all good options for that position. And just as a exit interview question, when they were coming out of the interview process, the pay was cited by all of them as the reason they were applying. So I just want to throw that out there, that we're in an unprecedented time with regards to labor, and any advantage we have getting qualified people, we need to retain.
Can I add one thing, Ellie? I'm just going to speak for myself. We were remiss in reading that letter last week without finding out all the details prior to, and I just want to apologize for that, Phil.
Hi, good morning, everybody. We're very busy at the library. We just had our roof cleaned this past week. It looks really lovely. I've been very busy looking for grants for our outdoor project. We've identified 28 private funders who fit what we're trying to do, so I am going to be very busy grant writing for the next year. We are also doing some fundraising through our library foundation. Their first event, and just to remind you, the foundation was formed basically for this project, but it will be in place as the library has other building needs. So their role is to make sure we have some kind of cushion for anything we need in the future beyond what we're budgeted. So our first event is November 2nd, which is a silent auction. We're asking artists to create whatever it is that they create based on a book of their choice. So we are reaching out to artists in the area. People can make flower arrangements, and I think it's going to be a really fun community event. So if you're at all artistic, we'd love to have you participate. Everybody's invited to submit something for this event, and if you do submit something, the event is free. Otherwise, it's a $25 admission. We're going to have wine and food just to raise for our outdoor project. One of the very fun things, I think, is a community quilt that we're doing. So I did the first square just to show you what it looks like, and this is based on my favorite book, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Or if you aren't into sewing, you can just glue things on and just paint whatever book you want. So we would love to have everybody here get a square at the library, and then we'll have some doodads you can sew on, and we'll find somebody who can sew them all together, and we'll auction that off. I think that's going to be really fun. October is a very, very busy month for the library. We have the Library Friends, which is another group that exists to support the library. So we have the foundation and the Friends. Their Jack-o'-lantern jaunt, I think it's their 4th annual, has become really, really popular. That's going to be on October 24th. And the Friends are looking for volunteers this year to help them set up their spooky walk, help set up the tombstones they put out and the scarecrows and all that kind of thing. So I think even the setup is going to be fun, but the kids have a great time. And if you've never been to it, I suggest you come just to see the kids' smiling faces. It's really a fun time. October 29th, our adult services librarian, who is now our assistant director as of, well, January 1st she will be, is having a murder mystery party where people will be doing one of those games where they play the different characters, or you can just come to watch. The kids are having a costume party on October 30th as part of story time. And this Saturday, my husband has volunteered to do a coding class for kids, which is a 4-part class. So if you have any kids who are interested in math or computers, it's going to be at 11 o'clock, and just call the library to sign up because there is limited space there. So we have a lot going on. Our landscape architect is going to unveil his plans at the end of this month for what we have going on outside. I've been trying to keep the town in the loop. I met with Ellie and Phil, and we discussed what our plans are, and I just will keep everybody informed, but if you have questions, please just let me know. And then hopefully in November, we'll have a town forum to explain to the town, just as we did last year when we were first starting to think about this. But, and all are welcome. Please come, if you have any questions at all, come ask me. And that's what we have going on.
Good morning. How's everybody? I want to take the chance and introduce our new Deputy Health Inspector. First and foremost, Kevin Schultz.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm hoping I can help Pedro out a little bit here. Seems like since I've been here, a few weeks now, I can tell he's got quite a load there. So I'm hoping that I can kind of do some organization with some of these files, create a system with him, and, you know, take some of the inspections off his plate, which I've been doing.
Yes.
Been trying to do anyway.
Yes. No. I'm very grateful. He's been tackling along pretty well, and he's been functioning really good. So I always go and tackle his ideas and opinion because of his experience and expertise also in my field as well. And I'm not shy to go to him and say, hey, you did this for a lot longer than what I've been doing it. So any pointers, and it's been really good, really, really good. So I'm very grateful for it. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much. It's
Well,
good to see faces with names.
Perfect. So, and now with regards...
Pedro, Kevin, you were with Hampton before?
Yes, I was with the town of Hampton for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was the chief building inspector. I wore many hats. I was a hat rack. I was the health officer, electrical, plumbing, gas, code enforcement, you name it.
Well, we're glad to have that level of experience to work in that department, so should be a big help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Then going to the department, yes, we have been very busy. The online permitting system is working amazingly. Our first applicant loved it. One of the things that he's doing is exactly what I was looking. The applicant is receiving emails throughout the way. When we receive the application, when somebody picks it up, when somebody gets to be assigned to that application, when somebody reviews the application, and what is the next step that the application is taking course. So they're very happy with it because that diminished the amount of expectation or anxiety towards when is the application is going to be approved for, what's the status of it. So that's really good. So far, today I have seen the first Monday with the lowest amount of calls. I don't know if it's because I'm up here or or what, but really good. I want to say also thank you to Chief Johnson the other day for the assistance when I was walking out in the highway. I want to make it publicly. It was really good. I got 2 pullovers, but they were really good about it. Didn't get to see the inside of the police department, so that's good. With regard the department, there are two things that I would like to talk with the board, and we will need also assistance from the tax clerk down there. And it is, one of the things that I'm getting a lot is realtors understanding that because they see something in a tax card and somebody's being taxed according to whatever description the tax card has, they deem that to be the legal status of the property, which might not necessarily be. So I was talking with Tammy, and I explained that we should be able to do something that states in the tax card that the information that is reflected on the tax card might not be the actual legal status. That is with regards to properties that are seasonal, that have been used year-round. That's one. Property that were legally a two-bedroom properties and now are 3 or 4 bedrooms. Things of that nature. Because if we don't have the records that they were modified, converted, or anything, that doesn't mean that they have been using that legally, and now what problems that brings to the town. The second thing on that note is the initiative brought to by Glenn Greenwood of having an inventory of seasonal homes in town. The town should be able to know how many seasonal homes we have, where they're located, so that we can have an understanding on how we want to go with it for proposed conversions of it. Or if we don't want to deem those to be able to be converted to a year use because of whatever restrictions presents the lot. Because there are lots that are very small and they will definitely have an impact on our natural resources. So that is something that I'm bringing to the board to at some point definitely have a discussion and try to figure that out. There are properties out there that have plenty of land that, yeah, that if the board see fit a process to make those conversion, yes. But there are others that are in a very challenging place. And again, being a good store of our natural resources, we want to make sure that we have all the parameters in place to say yay or nay when those comes to come.
That's a discussion for a meeting in and of itself.
Yes, yes.
To do that.
Yes.
Can we legally put anything on the tax cards that says that all the information may not be accurate or up to code?
That comes from assessing, so I could look into it, but
Let's take a look at that,
yeah.
because that may become...
That's what they're being taxed on, but doesn't necessarily mean that they have a permit.
That's
or
correct.
that they've been legally
That's correct.
approved to have that 5th apartment or whatever.
Exactly.
So the question would be, can we add something to the tax card?
I'll find out.
Okay.
Yes, and I also talked with the town assessor, the corporation that is doing the town assessment currently, and they understood, they said, well, we only do the assessment based on what we see. We don't go and reflect or review documentation to see what is the legality of that information. That's not their job. Their job is to go make an assessment of what it is and then tax accordingly. So that's, and I see it, and that's what I wanted to make sure that we can clarify, because a lot of calls that I've been getting are on that nature of business. Well, they have been taxes these to be used legally that way.
Right.
Not necessarily, so.
There's a lot of properties that have expanded and grown into areas that are not on their site plans, for example, or part of their tax assessing card.
And as example of that, not to mention addresses, there is a couple of particular properties that I have gone to do some sort of site inspection, and I have encountered several issues. One of them is when we did, before Kevin was on board, we did a test pit, and we were digging in somebody else's property because we didn't know if that property was legally ever used year-round. We do have documentation showing that it was a cottage at some point, but again, that septic failed, people are living there year round, what is the condition? So again, that comes back down to, because that's the answer I get, well, they've been taxed as a year-round property. And those are the things that you go, I see, but that not necessarily means that this is a year-round property, and we need to make sure that we have a little bit of control on that end.
I feel like my initial thought is if we put something on there saying this might not be accurate, we're opening ourselves up to constant reassessments and requests by tones.
Well, let's explore it a little bit, see what
Right.
we've got. You might be absolutely right, but
And the
let's,
liability associated with that.
I don't think accurate would be the right word to, but there must be some term that we can say
Right.
that just because they're using it that way and being
Right.
taxed that way doesn't mean it's legal.
right, and I'm sure other communities have experienced this, and let's find out what's going on elsewhere, and we'll go from there.
Right.
Okay, anything else?
And no, other than that, be very busy, up and running in the new application. We're already moving along to the next planning and zoning module on the online permitting portal,
Okay.
which is going to be very exciting, and we're looking to have the full software up and running no later than 1st of November.
Great. Any other questions for Pedro? Peter?
This is probably a meeting in itself, but we really need to address this for the next couple weeks.
Yeah?
But Pedro, maybe you could add to your plate.
Beautiful.
Maybe you could make a little synopsis of what you saw yesterday. We did a site walk at the, I'm sorry, Saturday. We did a site walk at the Boy Scout camp, which we have numerous things going on down there.
Yes,
But I think it's gonna come to the fire chief, life safety, all those buildings. We had a lot of problems that we saw.
Yes.
But from your professional standpoint, you went into those buildings like we all did. There was electrical cord issues and air conditioners and portable heaters and holy, it just keeps going. But as a set of eyes that was there, we probably should get our information and notes together.
yes.
And I don't know, we should maybe talk about it next Monday night when we're all here. Maybe we could talk to Lynn, because Lynn Merrill was there. Susan was there. So we should find out how we're going to address this issue, because currently, if I'm not mistaken, we have a cease and desist on the property, right?
Right, that's
But
correct.
that doesn't do anything, because they're just still doing what they're doing. So I don't understand the whole purpose of that. But I think, dawned on me last night that they asked for a continuance of this hearing. Well, that continuance is going to put us past Columbus Day, where I'm sure he's booked right up into Columbus Day. As we pulled in there, people were pulling out, and as we were leaving, people were pulling back in again. So I think there's a number of issues down there. I mean, a lot of them have to do with the health.
Yes, and there was clear evidence that there were people occupying the place for some activities, and there is a lot of life and safety concerns. And the biggest thing about the place is not only the use that is being given to the place, that is not in conformance with any of our regulations, is that the fact that there is a knowing violation of what was allowed to be done, and it just keeps going without regards. I also have, and I made Peter aware of it, denied a couple of permits to do said renovation on those cottages because there were many concerning questions of what's going on. And it was brought to me to get an electrical permit to install new poles, electrical poles, and I saw the electrical poles installed already in place. So again, there is a disregard to following up policies and procedures that are set by the town. And again, it's a little concerning. It is concerning.
Along with the cease and desist, have we been assessing fines?
No, not yet.
Well, had we been doing that, maybe we'd be getting better response.
We probably need to look at the history of the town, of who else we find and what schedules, and I think you're gonna find that very shallow. So, I mean, yes, this is a perfect example that we need to have fines, but I don't think we've really had a lot of big history of fines in this town,
right.
unfortunately. People
have
just
not.
keep on doing it.
Right.
I mean, that place on 125 with the asphalt places is another perfect example where DES probably should be notified on that place, because, I mean, now they got asphalt piled in the state right away. That's got to do with the state, not the town of Kingston, but it's another property that's in complete violation of our town, and no fines there as well. So I don't think it's just this one application. We need to really look into this blatant disrespect of what they're doing down there. There's a lot of issues. Again, it's fire, it's health, there's a lot of issues going on down there. It's not just one thing. And I agree with you 100% about the fines, but I guess we need to implement that at some point in our lives. We never really have.
Well,
we have, we just haven't addressed it.
And for once, we have a full-time building inspector, code enforcement, and that's been a long time coming, but there's so many fires to put out, we gotta set some priorities, but
This is going to be part of the discussion when they come to our meeting, because I think they were guided towards the planning board for a site plan, and that didn't happen. That was the last question from our attorney, did they go? And then they wanted to meet with us and do the site walk. So it needs to be cleaned up, the whole process.
it's putting it mildly. All right, so we have meetings in the future, coming soon.
Yes.
After we get through the department heads, we should look at some dates that we need to set up, some options, and see if we can do something before Columbus Day. Just be aggravating, if nothing else. Okay, anything else, Mr. Avila?
No, I believe I entertained pretty a lot so far. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Marissa, our Human Services Director.
Hello, everyone. The Thanksgiving program is up. The deadline is 10/31 to sign up. I already have some people signing up. They usually all kind of come in last minute, so I'm sure that's on the way. I'm going to officially start an adoptive family for the holidays. Last year, I had some really generous people that stepped up that wanted to do that. I want to make that like a program. So I'm going to start advertising that if anyone wants to adopt a family for the holidays. It's kind of nice. I spoke to the Red Cross about hosting a community event to replace smoke detectors. And I'm not sure if this is something, Graham, that you would want a part of. I can keep you in the loop.
Sure. We had, it was probably 10 years ago now, we had a bunch of smoke detectors. They're all out of date now.
Yeah.
But we would hand them out to people that needed them.
Oh, nice.
And we currently go, obviously when we get called on a daily basis to go change low batteries or whatever, we go out and do that. We can't replace the detector because you have to be an electrician to do that.
Right.
But we can do batteries and all that good stuff. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
keep me in the loop.
I'll keep you in the loop. Yeah,
Marissa, we just had them at the library last week doing a program on replacing smoke detectors, and we have signs all over the library now.
Oh, good. Excellent. I am going to be changing the pantry hours starting October 1st. So instead of having it kind of open all the time and people just showing up, it's difficult if I have appointments to have people showing up for the food pantry that is sitting outside waiting for too long. So I'm going to do the first and third Monday of every month from 9 to 11 in the morning and 4 to 5:30, which means I might be able to catch people at the end of the workday too. I can set up appointments outside of that, but I want to try to keep it contained as much as I can to the first and third Monday of every month. I have my next Caring for Kingston meeting today from 2 to 3 at the library, and we're going to be discussing homelessness. And so what I'm trying to do is the paid service providers that we didn't really have much of a relationship or a dialogue with them, and I'm trying to set up communication with them to make sure they're serving us. And so I only heard from a couple of people, but those are important people to be at this discussion. So we're going to talk about housing insecurity and homelessness in town. I have gone to a few board meetings at the Vic Gary Senior Center. Their programming is really good. It complements what we have in the library and rec. So I'm going to kind of solidify that. In my discussions with them, it appears that we have senior transportation open to us that we were not utilizing through the Meals on Wheels program. And so I'm working on setting up a meeting between Melissa, Laurie, and the Meals on Wheels individual, my contact Dave, to try to find out how we can bring transportation to town that's already covered. It's not going to cost any extra money for us. So that's more to follow on that. But it appears that they have a handicap accessible van available at Vic Gary that Meals on Wheels drives. And he said that they have openings and they're ready to help us. So more to follow on that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions for Marissa? All right. Paula Mahoney, our Finance Director and Human Relations, HR, Resources.
Just working on the budget, working on trying to finalize wage matrix with everybody. I will be sending out, Friday, I was able to finalize a hiring committee for the new rec director position, so I'll be sending out an email to the committee after this meeting, and we'll attach everything. We have 4 applicants already. And what else? I think that's it, just really busy trying to, working with the state to get the, our estimated rest of the year revenue so we can start the tax rate process.
I would like to remind all department heads, boards, and committees to check the town website, your page on the website, because there's a lot of inaccurate information. And if you ask Caitlin to put an event, you might want to ask her to take it off at a certain date when it goes by, like the Beer Fest that I just took off.
Well, that's for next year.
Oh. You know, people leave, when someone leaves, I know it's not your top priority, but just once a month, check your web page and see if it's accurate and let her know. I have gotten rid of all those boxes and files. There's a few that are under the table that Lynn Merrill wants to go through, but I tucked them under in case Marissa needed the room for Thanksgiving. That pile of maps is up for grabs if anyone wants to look at that. I know Phil wants to look at it, so. And then we're still working on getting that room downstairs painted and cleaned out in new file cabinets, so it's almost done. The town clerk's office will be closed on October 10th to attend our annual conference and, of course, on Columbus Day. We had a little get-together for Paul. Thank you all for coming. I think it was pretty well attended. And with that, there are some outstanding balances that a few people sent their kids to camp and didn't pay, so I'm hoping the selectmen will write these people a letter that, you know, pay up, or we're going to turn it over to the police. Caitlin does have a spreadsheet, if you want to include that in the letter, that says this is the days they came, this is the amount you paid, so you owe this amount. But this is a list of who they are and how much they owe. There's only 4, but.
Going forward on that, is there a possible plan that we could implement, like Camp Lincoln, that if you don't pay, the kids don't go?
Well,
I don't think we should be
hopefully
chasing around families. The town should be chasing around families. I mean,
Yeah.
to what extent are you gonna just finally forget it?
Well, that's why I've asked Caitlin to be on that committee to hire the new person. That's one of the reasons.
Perfect.
So we can get. Is this a non-payment or bad checks? No, this is, they haven't paid. Right, right. But if they get a letter from the selectmen that says it'll be turned over, then maybe. And yes, I was at the e-waste. I was amazed at how many people brought stuff. It was, we collected over $1,500 from, yeah. It was amazing what people were bringing in, like microwaves, the size of, I mean, huge, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, we have one more dog left that hasn't been licensed. Yeah. No, it's not yours. Yours isn't licensed, but it's not due yet. We're waiting for the tax rate for the tax bills to come out, hopefully by November 1st, but we also have the general election. I did see this notice from the desk of the superintendent that says that the election is going to be at the high school, so I'm taking that as, okay. All right, so the election is going to be at the new high school on November 5th, and Phil and I have talked about the message board sign trailer.
It needs to charge for another day or two since it was out for the e-waste thing, and then it'll be.
Perfect.
Any preference on where it goes?
right where you had it is great, and then the day of the election to move it down at Swayze to say, come back.
Do we have just the one sign, Phil?
So we have the one electronic signboard, and then we have two available sandwich boards, like the one we put in front of the town hall here and down at the collection center. So we can, if you guys have a flyer, we can print that out on the plotter and put that in the sandwich boards as well, start advertising that.
Should we have something down the Hunt Road area? I mean, there's a lot of homes down there. I'm just trying to think geographically to let people know that we've changed the look. For this election, we have to be somewhere else because of the
Well,
construction.
it has
outside.
gone out in the school newsletter.
Yeah,
Melissa's gonna put it in her newsletter.
yeah.
We've sent emails to everyone we have an email address for. We're handing out little tickets when people register their cars. We
Okay.
have it on social media. I'm gonna ask the rec department and the Lake Association and the library to put it on their little boards. So I kind of was waiting to make sure this was confirmed before I move forward with some of this, but, you know, I'm trying to get the word out as best I can.
Are we also planning to have a person physically posted at
The old
Swayze Gym?
Well, that's why I was gonna put that sign, that message board, right there, that day of the election.
At the entrance, right?
At the entrance.
Okay.
And basically cones across so they can't go in, and
Right.
So no need for a person then?
I don't see the need, I mean, I don't,
Well, clearly, yeah, probably not. I mean, if it's
this-
blocked off and there's a sign, then
Right.
that probably should do it.
you'd hope.
Yes, well, I'm sure there'll be one. Okay.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but I have done a couple signs downstairs that try to direct
Yes.
people.
Yes.
I don't want to do anything too permanent, because if we do move things around, but I'm working on, I want to get those little flag things that are up high.
Yep.
So, but I am working on
Yep, I
getting some
saw
more
that last
signage.
week, yep. Very good, thank you. Any other questions for Tammy? And last but certainly not least, our Fire Chief, Graham Pellerin.
I'll make it quick. First off, do we have an encumbering date? I know it's kind of early,
We
but.
have not set that yet.
Okay.
We have not set that,
I'm not anticipating any, that's the last chance to.
just in case.
Yeah, you never know. So just to keep the board up to date, I'm on a working group with the Seacoast Chiefs to figure out a replacement for ALS, whether it's a private service, a municipal service, how to keep paramedics in our community, basically. So the first of that meeting, I'm on the board with 8 other chiefs in the area. The first meeting will be next Wednesday in Epping, so I will keep you abreast of the situation as it unfolds.
Were you going to move on to another topic?
Nope. One more thing, so I don't know if, I got your email the other day, so we got a call, Michelle, I forget her last name, but she's the interim head of acute services over at Exeter Hospital. She was the one that called us to tell us that they were terminating ALS. She called us last week, all the towns, and asked how we were doing, and a lot of towns don't have nice things to say to her because, again, she's just a messenger, but because of the termination. So I saw the extended for 6 months thing, post, and I called her Thursday to confirm that, and I have not received a call back. So I've heard varying stories that they are gonna extend it, and that they're still keeping December 21st as the date.
Well, according to the Attorney General's office, it has been extended by mandate for at least 6 months.
Okay.
So I guess that, I mean, I'm really glad you guys are on top of this, because it's awful what the hospital's doing with dropping that service, in addition to other things that are going on at the hospital after the recent takeover by Beth Israel Leahy. But Graham, do you have any sense for, this is an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I mean, if the Attorney General, in fact, has gotten it extended for 6 months, and I know that office is looking into now whether or not Beth Israel Leahy has been living up to their end of the bargain as far as the takeover. I mean, so this thing could be a long, drawn-out situation, but Do you have any sense for whether or not the current service, as it is the ALS service, would be extended, or do you anticipate that it's going to go away?
So my fear is they've already had some paramedics leave because of the uncertainty of the future of their job. So I think that's going to get worse, and more people are going to leave and not apply because they've already shown their cards.
Yeah.
So I want to let everybody know that the ambulance service is not going to be affected by that. So I'm sure everybody knows that they just send for any 911 codes a call, either Alpha through Echo. And Alpha Bravo is like a stub toe or a nosebleed. Charlie, Delta, and Echo progressively get worse. So, you know, an Echo call is a cardiac arrest. Charlie call is a seizure or a stroke. So ALS gets toned automatically with Kingston and 13 other towns for any Charlie, Delta, or Echo, and then we can request them anytime. They do currently serve those 14 towns. They have 2 paramedics on it 24/7. They have more that they can get from the hospital to send out if those 2 are busy. So the level of care, being at the paramedic level, is obviously the best. The next step is a nurse and then a doctor. But Kingston has all AEMTs full-time, so we can still do basic life saving, start IVs, give, you know, epinephrine, give all that stuff. We almost delivered a baby this morning. They made it to the hospital. I think they were driving really fast. Not breaking the speed limit though. So we will still provide the ambulance and transfer you to the hospital, but yes, a paramedic is a better, higher level of care. So with that being said, I've addressed the board before in the budget committee that I will be looking for support at the ballot box in March for hiring 2 more full-time, and I'm going to go for paramedic firefighters this time because, again, the uncertainty of ALS and what's going to happen, even if the Seacoast chief comes up with a solution, you know, it's happened several times before that solutions have worked forever, but what happens when that may not work? So my job is to protect the citizens of Kingston and keep them safe, so I think hiring 2 medics, we have 1 medic that will be ready to go in March or February of next year, full-time currently. That'll give us 3 medics if we get the other 2 in March, and that'll be able to provide 90% service at the paramedic level. So.
Thank you, Chief.
That's all I got.
Any questions or comments? Okay, all right, we'll go in the regular portion of our meeting. We do have, yes, go
I
ahead.
apologize.
Yep.
Pedro, quick question.
Yes, sir.
This is in reference to the school down here. The demolition.
Yes.
I believe it's intimate and it didn't start today. I mean, they got big equipment down there running. So my question is, does the town, do we have anything set up to monitor that process? Because I know that building's full of asbestos.
Yes,
So do they take the grant money and?
They submitted all the information. When they have asbestos, they deal with DES directly.
Okay.
And they have a set up plan on how they're gonna deal with the asbestos debris and how they're gonna collect and dispose of those.
Perfect, thank you.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Wait a minute. Hold on, folks. Speak up there,
Well,
Glenn. Hold on.
on a couple of folks, not everybody, but wanted to just have a quick discussion about a meeting that Lori and I attended, and there were some potential action items that come out of it regarding safety at the boat launch area. And so maybe Phil and Joel and Graham could just hang back for a minute, and if it's all right, we
Yeah,
can.
that's fine. Yeah, we
Jesus.
just didn't know that you had something else.
Well, I know I was.
It's okay.
No, they were gonna talk about some
No
thing at the
problem.
boat launch area. So
Take
if you
advantage
want,
of
you
them
can
while
just.
they're here.
Well, yeah, having to call them back in, so.
Right.
So, Laura, so we'll do this under new business, huh? You're in public comment, though.
Okay, we're gonna open it up for public comment at this time. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that's
He's the wrong Jim.
different, Jim.
Would you like to speak on public comment, sir? Would you come on down and state your name? Come by, sit by a microphone, please. Put your microphone on, your name and
My name
address.
is Jim McDonough. I have a property on 5 Ledge Road in Kingston. To piggyback on what Pedro mentioned earlier, I have one of those seasonal properties that we're in the process of trying to convert to a year-round home.
Okay.
It would necessitate, we would have to take down the existing building to put in the new building. There's no way I can get the existing building to meet code, at least bring it up to code and make it a year-round property. We've gone through the process to purchase extra land from the adjacent landowner, who's Bob Griffin, and his family trust. We've got a shoreline permit approved by the state. We have an approved septic design approved by the state. And then when we went to Pedro to get the building permit, there seems to be some questions about how do we get that process taken care of. It's a private road, and we have a deeded right-of-way off of that private road, so there's a couple of hurdles there. So we're trying to figure out what our next steps are.
To give the background to the board, while doing the review for the project, I sat down with Glenn Greenwood, and we came to a state RSA that inhibits the ability of me issuing a permit on a right-of-way. So, and the town has there is no rules or regulation within the ordinance that will allow for me to issue a permit in a right-of-way that is not class 5 or better.
So we do have, and I didn't bring this up to Pedro before, and I'm not trying to blindside him.
No, that's okay.
We did have a couple of permits for repairs with Robert Stewart, who was the previous building inspector, but we're going back about 9 and 10 years since we've had those permits in place. We repaired a chimney, and I did some other repairs in the property just to make it safer and a better, make better use of it. So at this point, we've got a significant investment in getting the state permits, to purchasing the additional land to get us to this point. So we are kind of anxious to move forward, but we need some guidance from the town on how we're going to make that happen.
So the issue is issuing a permit on a right-of-way?
So there are many factors to it. To this is a class 6 road. He has a right of way out of that class 6 road that leads to his property. That's the two.
And so this gentleman is trying to obtain a driveway permit off of that?
He will need not only to obtain a driveway permit, the gentleman is trying to convert a seasonal property into a year-round, and it's going to increase in the footprint. I went and did a test pit. Dennis Quintal did the design of the septic. So that's where we are at. When the paperwork came to me, like I said, I sat down with Glenn Greenwood with that matter, and he said, "Well, Pedro, you got a bigger curveball to hit. That is, for state RSA, towns and municipalities and cities are not able to issue building permits on access way that are less than a class 5 road."
Unfortunately, there's a lot of issues here.
Well, yeah, there is.
We got a fire chief sitting right here, so we get a road, house built off a class 6 road, which is not maintained by the town, and the place catches on fire. We have accessibility to this gentleman. We have other applications in front of us on class 6 roads of properties that we've denied because it's on a class 6 road. I think whether it's a seasonal house, whether it's this gentleman or anybody else, to maintain the building codes of the town of Kingston with as far as water setbacks, the septic designs, the wells, life safety, that's paramount. And there's quite a bit of other properties in this town that fall into the same category. unfortunately.
And just a little background, so there were 3.5 properties in Kingston. One of the third house is half in Kingston, half in Danville. And there are 3.5 year-round properties that are at the end of the road that are in Danville. So to bring up fire access, emergency response, regardless of whether it's a private road or not, those vehicles would have to, access the properties, to supply the services. So I'm not sure how that plays into it, to your point.
Well, it's, the road to Class 6 is not maintained by the town.
Right.
That's the issue. And so does it meet town specs for a road?
Run that by
Not
me.
even
Does
close.
the town,
Yeah.
does that road heading into that property, since it's a Class 6, does it mean town specs for a road? Like, for instance, when we have new houses built, that long driveway has to meet town specifications for a road.
Understood.
So you get fire apparatus and turning around, so that road going down into there, if it's not maintained by the town, that's one of the biggest issues right there.
Right, but if there was, God forbid, there is an emergency that requires, a fire department response, do they not go down there because it's not maintained, or?
Well, we would obviously make every effort to get down there. I think to the selectman's point, if it's off New Boston Road, I can call directly the DPW director and say, hey, I need this road plowed right now. We can't do that with Ledge Road because it's privately owned.
Yeah.
We have responded down there before. It's very
I
tight.
understand this is not a simple,
Yeah, it's not.
simple response, and it probably is not going to be answered today. I'm just trying to get it out there.
We'll need a list of the issues in order to make some decisions.
It's not that easy of a process, and actually that it is one of the many cases that we have currently going on that prompted the request to get some sort of inventory and get some level of parameters on how we are going to be addressing these matters. Because, this is just one of the many that we have going on.
It's a complex issue, and I've got to tell you that I'd be uncomfortable making any kind of decision without some legal counsel weighing in on this.
Sure, but you need to start with a list first.
Well, right,
Enumerating
right.
the problems with that property.
You mentioned that you've purchased some additional property, so the size of the lot is bigger now.
Correct.
As it stands, does it meet current building site or lot requirements? Or is it still undersized and?
My understanding is that it meets the lot requirements for the size of the building. Like I said, that we got approval from the state for a 3-bedroom septic design. It was approved.
No, the question.
I'm not talking about state requirements, I'm talking about town requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, is it an 80,000 square foot lot? Does it have 200 foot of frontage? Can you place a building on the lot and meet all the side setbacks and front setbacks, things like that?
So, per the review, it does not meet the total square footage of the lot, yet he can meet setbacks on the lot for the intent that he wants, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, although it's not a existing lot of record, because via line adjustment, this is a new lot. So.
We need a list. Class 6 road.
It's still a Class 6 road. We need a list, obviously, of all the issues. Because it's essentially a new lot, as you were saying, Peter, that could indicate requirements for a variance or variances. There are all kinds of issues.
I understand, and they're just trying to get it out there so that
As an agenda item to be worked on, yeah, for sure.
Pedro, will you be getting that list for us?
I most definitely have already the list. I got some to you,
Well,
because I did already all the research.
If you could communicate that to us. In the form of
I just communicated with Glenn Greenwood first, and that's when I got to that hold, because Glenn brought in the state RSA that states that no town or municipality can issue a building permit on a road that is not a public road, nevertheless on a on a property that is accessed via right-of-way.
Right.
Okay, thank you. To be continued. We'll get the list, and we'll take a look at it and go from there, see what Pedro recommends, and what we can or cannot do. And if that includes council, we will take care of that as well. All right, let's see what we can do for you. Thank you for coming here. Anything else, gentlemen? With regards to, you had something else, right?
Well, the reason that I asked the department head, the chiefs, to stay here for a moment.
Does Pedro need to stay here, or is he
No.
all set?
You're all set.
Dismissed.
Time for you to go to work. Go to work.
You get plenty. Okay.
This is an item that came up at a meeting that Lori and I attended to. We represented the select board at the Lake Association meeting most recently, last Thursday, was it? Wednesday, whatever, well, last week. And they asked for select board representation because they wanted to discuss several issues, but the main item was safety at the boat launch area. And, I mean, there's a laundry list of things, and I know Lori took really good notes, much better notes than I did, but the trailers backing in and out of there, people using the land across the street for overflow parking, traffic management for when stuff is happening on Main Street, and then there were issues at the boat launch site itself. So maybe you can.
Mostly it was traffic related, right? And that there's a lack of signs, so people don't know that there's a boat ramp. So they're coming too fast down Main Street, and then there's a boat backing up, right? Surprise, right? People are speeding on Main Street. And then there's a boat backing up. And I guess there was one altercation this summer with a woman that just really didn't want to stop. I don't think it ended in an accident, but it ended in an altercation, right? So they're asking for signs, essentially, in both directions, that there's a boat ramp, so that would at least maybe alert a couple of people. They talked about a crosswalk, but without it being one of those flashy ones, right? I don't know how, a crosswalk from the boat ramp to the parking lot, because there's a lot of kids are running across, people are just not paying attention because it's a summer and they're having fun, and it's just a matter of time before somebody gets hurt. So if we don't have, I know we don't have boat ramp signs, but until we get something, possibly a, slow down, caution, something, right? For the town parking lot, the one that has the chain across it, some sort of sign indicating that it's town for residents only, but by permit or with keys. Because the lake hosts are asked a lot of questions about that. And it's, they're providing a lot of information when they say, well, it's for town residents. Well, I'm a resident, why can't I park there? Well, you need a key. And so it's just kind of the circular conversation that they want to stop. And then they've spoken with the folks from the Dam Bureau and about people who are swimming right at the boat ramp. And there's no signs there that say you can't swim, but clearly that's also another problem that could, end in something that's hurtful to somebody. They fish there, they don't have a problem with it. It's just the fish, it's the swimming and people letting their dogs swim right off of the boat ramp. So essentially it just comes down to signage. And what we can do about that, understanding that signs cost money, but if we have anything temporary that we could put up, it won't be as important right now because we're heading into the off season, but something to really think about. Because we don't want an accident, right? Like, we really want to prevent that.
That stretch of road, we maintain that, right, Phil?
We do.
Okay.
This was a topic of discussion with the Road Safety Advocate Program that I spoke about a few weeks ago. you can't just plop a crosswalk on the street.
Right.
You need a sidewalk tying into another sidewalk. So those crosswalks over at Bakey are very illegal. Someone just decided to paint those on the road and throw up some signs, and if anything happened there, we would not be in a good place because they were never properly set up. So to address that, that's why I got involved with that road safety program for the state to give us funding for that. One of the things we had looked at is a motion activated sensor that would signal a light up on the hill because it's in a depression there where you can't see it. So that's why that hasn't happened yet as far as putting signage up. The complicated problem there is we don't own that property, so we can't put a sidewalk up on the state's side of that, and we don't own the other side of it. We're leasing it. So there's been numerous discussions about leasing, purchasing the state shed property, and frankly, it's on a holding pattern until then because the parking situation is a free-for-all. And it's not, my understanding is there's a lot of jurisdictional issues as far as who owns what down there. The Marine Patrol, the state police, the local police, who can actually do anything down there is fairly murky from what I understand. So there are a lot of variables that we just are in flux right now with regards to ownership and everything. And there has not been a single accident there. We went through the crash data, yeah.
Right.
But that's one of the sticking points for outside funding is you need crash data to put in front of them and say, this is, everybody perceives it to be an issue, but it has never actually been an issue. And I hate to state it like that because yes, it's dangerous, but nothing has ever happened there.
When you have 3 boats trying to pull in the same spot and then fighting for position, it's a pain. And we do, when we go by, we do, tell them, pull over, get on the side of the road, turn around and come back. I mean, it's all we can do,
I know years ago we had, I don't know if they're still there or they were taken down, but we had the little yellow diamonds with the triangle with a boat and a trailer on each side. So I don't know if that's what they're talking about.
That's what they're talking about.
Essentially, yes.
Yes, yeah, just so it alerts people that there's a launch right there.
And I'll say what I say to everybody who requests signage. Well, hopefully when they're staring at their phone, they might look up to that last second before they see, so they can see that. Signage is very ineffective.
Speed limit signs, they work great.
They're suggestions.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't work in every case, and
I would say what we have budgeted eats up what we, just replacement of existing signs getting stolen or damaged in accidents and things like that chews up our budget. I mean, a post is $61 and a sign is generally $60 to $75. So you're talking $150 a whack plus every time a sign gets taken out. And I think we have like $3,000 in that line, or $2,500.
do we possibly have those signs maybe that were taken down and maybe they're hanging around someplace that we could just reinstall?
I can look. I don't recall ever seeing those. Okay. So, but I can certainly look.
If we didn't have that, I mean, do we have another sign that would say something like slow down or yield, or I don't know, something just to, some kind of a yellow diamond thing to.
Yeah, I can look.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we can get something custom made. I wanted to put people who can't back trailers ahead. Yeah. At least it would actually get their attention.
Yeah.
Right, and then also for the town lot, I think is there a sign there now that says for town residents?
There was last year, but it seems to have walked away.
So we should probably look at that and being more descriptive, not just for town residents, because then everybody's like, well, how do I get in there, right? So something that has town clerk or something that's more descriptive.
Website.
Something, exactly, right. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, anything else?
No, thank you very much for staying longer. Appreciate it.
But I do have something that's later in the agenda, and it concerns use of the town hall. We had a group that wants to use it for dancing, but they need a liquor license. And what they've supplied is it's not a liquor license. All it does is certifies they know how to serve liquor. Well, I bet any one of us in this room could pass that with flying colors, but be that as it may. The concern, yeah, exactly. The concern is the use of the town hall while the stairs are under repair, and it may be, as Laurie said earlier, might be a year before they're finally completed, or certainly next spring. Do we want to be leasing out the town hall to non-residents, number one, that would need to come in through the back door to come up, or may not be familiar with the facilities? I want you guys to think about that for a second, you all.
I think it's, as we talked about prior to the meeting, Graham, these stairs, I mean, these aren't the best stairs. The bathrooms are downstairs. So now you have people up and down those stairs. The front door obviously is under construction. Joel has mentioned the security is going through our building out to the back door. And after hours, you have a police officer here. Well, he can't be upstairs and down, or she can't be upstairs and downstairs at the same time, watching our building. And for the
Yeah, I mean.
yeah, it's security and safety, both.
Yes, the commissions and committees that meet, I don't think that's a problem. They're familiar with the building, they're town residents, they know how to get in and
Correct.
out. They have access to the building directly on their own. But to non-residents or outside groups, we want to give that due consideration. Like this one here, I don't think it's going to cut the mustard, because if they want to serve alcohol and they're not familiar with the building, what if someone falls down here? Will they even know to come through the back door, to come out front, to come upstairs? I don't know. It makes it risky.
Obviously, he's the security guy, I'm the life safety guy. I would require a detail, even though it's a sprinkled building, for me, as a crowd control, as an EMT if needed. You know, the good thing in an emergency is you can still use the front steps, right? There's still half the steps that are usable. But, you know, for other reasons, I would probably not allow that, you know, because again, downstairs you have, you know, vital documents downstairs if somebody were to go in the wrong door, or, you know, heaven forbid, one of our employees left it open. So I would probably, and they can always contact the school and use the school gym or the Swayze gym, or.
I would almost want to bet you too, if you looked at those stairs, truthfully, they don't meet code. Those
Oh, I'm
stairs,
sure
go
they
down to
don't.
that downstairs, those front stairs right there.
I'm more worried about individuals that are not familiar with that building, they're not from town.
Exactly.
So we'll have to do it a case-by-case basis of whether or not they get permission to use the building accordingly. So, but that was my, I just wanted to run that by you all before you left. So I don't have anything else, I really don't. Thank you very much. Okay, anyone want a few minute break?
Yes, please.
Okay. We'll hold off for 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, how's that? Okay, and then we'll resume. We don't have a lot left, but a few things.
And the video's still running, I
The
think.
the
so.
video is running.
Susan, can we pause the video, or does it just stay running? Well,
All right, well then just leave it.
let's just leave it.
Let's leave it.
Let's just like that.
All right, we need a decision on paying for the printing of the watershed management plan. If you remember correctly, it was 103 pages, and the request was for 4 copies for the library, the town hall, the Lake Association, and there was a 4th one.
Right.
Well, that's town hall, but whatever. It was for 4 copies. I would suggest that we take it out of conservation funds, because that's my suggestion. And
Yeah,
whatever you'd like to do. But
Yes. It's just that it was one of the items that came up at the meeting that Lori and I were at.
Yeah.
And the question that we asked was, number one, was there any money left in the, because that watershed management plan was covered by a grant.
Right.
And we wanted to know from the Lake Association if there was any money left in the grant that hadn't been spent. And if so, could some of that be used to help offset?
Okay, did you ask them
costs?
that?
We asked them that. We don't have an answer to that.
We've asked Paula to
Oh.
find out. But also, that's a not-for-profit, right? That's a separate organization? It's not part of our project?
The Lake Association?
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it's a nonprofit, but I don't know that they're registered as a 501.
Be careful at what if you're gonna buy books for them, then you have to be careful with what you do with other.
But it's not, it's printing of the report. It's not to buy books. They want 4 copies of the report, the
watershed management
plan.
But who's organizing that?
It's in conjunction with KLA and FB Environmental, who did most of the study.
So is it part of our water? Because you have to be careful if you're gonna pay for something for one organization, you're gonna have to pay for stuff for another organization.
But what was the grant for? Didn't the grant pay for
I
the
don't know.
watershed? Didn't the grant pay for the watershed, like?
It paid for that plan.
data,
It
right?
paid for FB Environmental.
As long as it's for that, then
Yeah, that's what it's
we
for.
can pay for that.
Yes.
Is there money left over?
Yes, there's,
In the grant?
yeah, a little bit.
How much is a little bit?
I think it was like a few hundred.
Okay,
All right.
so our question to the Lake Association was, if there is money left over, we need to make sure that that's an eligible cost, because it might not be. But they, meaning the Lake Association, I believe, was tasked with following up on that for us.
They were tasked with following up on if FB Environmental would split the cost, and then also, what is the cost? Like, we don't know what the cost
Right.
is, so they have to find that out.
We talked about last time.
Yeah. So,
Right.
yeah, we have a lot of information we still don't have.
Correct.
Yeah, other than there's some money left over in the grant.
That's good to know.
Well, let's use that rest of the grant up first, and then, as I said, we should go through conservation. Okay. New business. We have nothing listed here. Public comment number 2. Anything there? Nope. Board business. We had a letter from Paul Butler rebutting some of the issues on the multi-paved recreation area.
We addressed that earlier.
Yep, we did.
Can we read it? We read the problem.
I'd be
I
happy
think we need
to.
to read the rebuttal.
All right, no problem. Dear Kingston Select Board, thank you for taking the time to review my letter. My preference would have been to be there in person to talk, but I was not able to do so due to the fact that we are moving. Craig Barlow informed me that he would be bringing a letter to the Select Board. I requested that he make it clear that he was speaking for himself, not for the Recreation Committee or myself. Craig is a current member of the Kingston Recreation Committee until 2026. I am writing as the Kingston Recreation Director. Phil Coombs and I have spent a great deal of time communicating about the multiplay court, and on 2 occasions we included Craig in these discussions at his request. In this letter, he is correct that we talked about different options for the perimeter of the multiplayer court, and talking to Phil today, he does not have any plans to put crushed gravel around the multiplayer court. To address the fact that Phil said that he should not be talking directly to him and only communicating through myself is a long-standing policy I have had with the DPW Highway Department and other departments as well. My philosophy as the Recreation Director involving the multiplayer court was to meet with Phil to discuss the location, the perimeter, and the overall design of the multiplayer court. At that point, I decided to leave the implementation of the design to Phil and his crew, as well as to the Bell and Filling Company. I deemed them to be the experts and feel we should let them do their job. At no point was I dissatisfied with the plans, the construction to this point, or anything else about this project. To my knowledge, no other Recreation Committee member had an issue with the plan. Over the course of 6 days, Craig sent me 10 texts related to this issue, many of which were lengthy. They all revolved around his concerns about the safety of the gravel and his mistaken understanding that it would be put around the perimeter of the multiplayer court. In his last text to me regarding the subject on September 14th, he wrote, I have made every possible effort to convince you and Phil of the importance of safety and maintenance for the project for this project with no success. I shared each of his texts with Phil either personally or by copying and pasting them to him. Thank you for allowing me to share my perspective. And it's signed Paul Butler, Recreation Director. And that definitely gives an alternative opinion than Mr. Barlow's, and it was appropriate that this be read into the record, and we're not doing anything to hurt or impede the safety and enjoyment of Kingston residents for their pickleball court. Okay, anything else on this topic?
I just want to say, I think overall, we should be more mindful of what we're reading out loud if it involves department heads or until we get all of the sides of the story, instead of...
Well, I don't always agree with that. I'm not going to agree with that, but
yeah.
We can agree to disagree at the
Sure.
time, okay?
Sure.
Because I think people have a right to know some of the things that get raised.
Well, they do, but I think we should present the whole story at the same time, as opposed to in piecemeal.
Well, it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way, but that's all right. It's not an item for arguments. Minutes for September 23rd. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Oh. Motion to approve.
There's more stuff. There's a list down here.
Yeah.
I'm just taking it by going down in alphabetical, in listing order. And a second? Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. We have purchase orders. There's a purchase order. We get that, those are circulating. You have the
They're over
purchase.
here, yep.
They're over there. We have one here from R.C. Brayshaw and Company, which is to print the annual report. The cost, projected cost for 200 copies is $1,141. What's your pleasure?
Is that typically what we have been, is that the vendor we've been using?
Yes, that's the one we've had.
All right. And it, okay, and is that quote similar to what we've been getting for quotes? Okay, and I'm assuming that's in our budget, and we planned it for our budget for next year as well?
There is money in the budget, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know how much that's for.
Yeah, it's asked for $1,141. You didn't show this to Paul, I gather.
No, I needed to get it approved, and then I was, there's 1,200 for next year's budget.
Okay, so it's
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So future on something like, here's a perfect example. Before that comes to us,
It should go to
to
Paul.
her, because we need to know the money's there, because we're gonna get it, we're gonna approve it, and we don't know where the money is.
Exactly correct.
So it should probably go to, in the
Yeah.
future with a contract like that, it should go to her first, then it comes to us.
Okay.
And then we know it's been seen by budget, and we know the money's there, then we can vote on it, right? Because if not, if these guys weren't sitting here, we'd have to ask you to go back to her anyway.
Okay.
I should have checked the number, but I knew it was in the budget, the same as it was last year, I was in the ballpark, so.
Okay, well, going forward, that's what we should be doing. So,
All right, motion to approve.
in a second?
Second.
In discussion? Okay, that's rocking and rolling, all right. We have an application for the dance, for a town hall dance for Halloween. Their certificate of someone being able to serve is not the same as a license to serve. And given some concerns about health and safety issues in the town hall as we're under construction in the front, I'm not sure we should be approving this at this time.
Well, I believe we actually did approve it, did we not? But it was contingent upon them coming up with a liquor
And
license.
that's, and sure sell
And
now.
an ability to serve liquor is not the same thing as a liquor license. So I think on that item alone, they don't meet the qualifications. So,
Okay, so we should have a motion to deny the request.
motion, well, did we actually approve it?
I don't think we did. I think we.
I don't think you did, you discussed
Okay.
it, and I think it
Yeah,
was
I don't
sent
think
out
there
for
was
more
a
information.
All right. So then, based on that, I'll make a motion to deny the permit request.
Okay, in a second?
Second.
Any discussion further? All in favor of denying? Go ahead, Peter.
I'm sorry, just one thing we should add to that, I don't think it should just be denied on the liquor license.
No,
It should
but-
be for the safety of the building and the public safety.
Give-
And we're under construction, there's the numerous things here that we're denying it by, is in addition to that liquor license.
Right, because they would have to have access from the back
Correct.
hallway. They need to get up the stairs to know where to come in. and-
So having, I mean, that's a really good point, we already talked about that, but do we want to just let them know that there's other alternatives in town, or are we just gonna say no? Like, if they wanna use the Swayze gym, they'd have to contact the school.
I can point them towards the school, they'd have to deal with them,
Right.
whatever facility.
Right,
I
so
think
we
as a
should give
courtesy-
alternates.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a courtesy to them, it makes sense
Yeah.
to refer them to the superintendent's office
right.
to see what other facilities might be available that date.
And are we going to look at each individual request as they come, or are we just gonna make a blanket for fire and safety purposes, we're not gonna rent out the town hall till the stairs are done?
I'd rather do it on a case-by-case basis. I mean, let's say the Kingston Lake Association came in and they wanted to hold an event. I wouldn't want to necessarily deny them the event, because they're familiar with the town hall, how to get in and so forth and so on. Yeah, I'm just one, my opinion is we do case-by-case basis. That's my opinion. Anyone else's opinion?
Well, I think if we're holding meetings, and here's one thing, like you said, everybody's used to it, but if health and safety and a fire is the same regardless of the event, so I think it would probably be better for the public to just say it's closed for rental, and here's your alternatives, so we don't have to have other people thinking about what are my options.
I would agree with your stipulation on the rentals, to rent it out for private functions, I would agree with that. But we do have boards and associations that still use this hall.
Yes, yep.
But as far as renting it out
For events.
for events, I think you have issues with the safety and the stairs and everything else.
Yeah, because you have details that you have to worry
Then-
about, let
then
them just figure out.
Please make a motion.
Go to the school.
Let's move.
I'm-
We suspend rentals for private purposes until the stairways are finished in front. How's that sound? Okay.
Are we, well, I'm not going to make a motion. I'm going to recuse myself because I actually coordinate and use this hall once a month for a dance activity. So, and that schedule is booked out for months ahead.
We've already signed that.
And we've already signed that.
So for future ones then, not things we've already agreed to.
So, but if, and it can be canceled, I mean, it can be shut off, but because I'm so intimately involved in it, I don't want to, I don't think I should vote on it.
I agree.
So for future.
Yes. So to go with Ellie's motion, did you make the motion or?
I
you just
did.
Okay. And
No
to-
one seconded it yet. Oh, did you second it?
We just added to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can
I'll
add it
second.
and add to it.
And so for future, right, for discussion, for already agreed to events, that's fine, but for future, until the stairs are done, we should just halt.
And we have to be
private events.
unanimous because there's three of us voting. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. It passes. Okay, meeting date for Lone Tree discussion. Perfect timing. What are some alternatives? We know we need to do it at 4 o'clock or later in the day to accommodate work schedules.
Right.
So you can do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday for that matter. I mean, I don't think we have to wait till the 20th, and it doesn't have to be a Monday. if we're willing to have a separate
We could
meeting.
meet during the week of Columbus Day. We're closed on Monday, but you could set a meeting any other day of the week.
Why can't we do it next week? I know you won't be available,
Yeah.
but maybe we can have someone else take minutes.
If we can get them here, I was trying to get them, to give us some dates, and I don't have them yet, so.
Well, don't we have to check with town council
Yeah.
first to make sure?
Yeah.
So I think in the next 2 weeks, Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock, which date do you want? The sooner the better. Because.
After 4, that's what we said.
At 4 o'clock, yeah, for 4 o'clock time. Monday through Friday in the next 2 weeks, other than Columbus Day. Does that work for you too, Pedro, if you, okay.
So just give that information to them and ask them to choose a date.
I want you to call Carrie Ann first,
Yep.
attorney.
Yep.
If that works for her, and then call them up and say, the board wants to get this resolved sooner rather than
Yeah,
later.
she's been coordinating with them,
Okay,
so.
beautiful.
And I can't do
Probably
the 10th,
not.
Susan, that's the only day I can't do is
The 10th you can't, okay.
So you want this week off the docks? Okay. So from October 7th through the 21st, how's that sound? Does that make sense, Susan?
Yep.
It won't be next,
Yep,
it won't be
except
this
for the
week, 7th through the, okay, great. We got the MS form that just came through to sign. We talked about the town report. Pedro, do we have anything else you want to bring up?
No, anything, unless you guys have any other questions for me. I'm just here to answer any questions.
Okay, I don't think so. Do we have a non-public request at all? I don't think so. Phil would like an under, which one? A3, okay, 91A3.
Did we discuss when Pedro was here that what date we were gonna revisit this camp thing? That's really gonna be addressed. The building situation, when turning the camp into a round home on a classic road. We really need to address that. I mean, it's just not that one.
Well, yeah, I know that, but do we want to do that?
No, I didn't know if we had set a date.
We did not set a
Yeah,
date.
we can talk about that, because that's gonna be very important, where he should be here. That's why I was mentioning.
Okay.
Pedro should be here for that.
Yes.
That's why I was curious if we had talked about a date.
No, we have not.
Anytime that's not good for you on a Monday night, you could probably make something work?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll work around anything.
So maybe Susan can check the schedule and.
Yeah,
I'm not planning I don't foresee any vacation for me in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, the 7th, I know is, we're going to have a presentation from Phil on solid waste, so
14th?
14th is Columbus Day, so 21st would be the other date.
Yeah, 21st.
Okay, let's plan on the 21st. We might want to start at 6 that night.
Yeah.
And do that one first.
Do that one first. How does that sound, Pedro? 6 o'clock on the,
That sounds perfect. I'm also, today is the due date for the building department car, and I need to do the inspection and I believe registration again, so.
See Tammy on that.
I'll see Tammy.
Well, the inspection would be down there at 1:25.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it right now, I'm gonna talk to Paula.
And talk to Tammy about the registration.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public under 91A:3, 2. So do I have a motion? Please?
So moved, and just for clarification, in addition to that one, I wanted to bring up some business, but it's under that same item.
Okay.
So we can do them together.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, Laurie?
Yes.
Glenn, me,
Yes.
yes, and Peter.
All right, and Phil
Okay.
is shutting off the
Recording,
recording.
yes.